kingdom Monera and kingdom Protista with their major groups. So, based on their salient features, we can easily differentiate between the two kingdoms. In kingdom Monera, all the species are prokaryotic unicellular organisms, whereas in kingdom Protista, all the organisms are eukaryotic unicellular organisms. There is the presence of peptidoglycan in the cell wall of all moneral species except Mycoplasma, since it devoids the cell wall. And in Archaebacteria, the cell wall is composed of proteins and non-cellulosic polysaccharide, which makes them to withstand in any harsh environmental condition. Whereas the Protestant, the cell wall is made up of cellulose. Also, we had seen that there is no proper nuclear membrane enclosing the genetic material, since the structure is called as nucleoid in kingdom Monera. Whereas there is well-defined nucleus in kingdom Protista. With respect to nutrition, both of them have autotrophic as well as heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Only in kingdom Monera they exhibit both photosynthetic as well as chemosynthetic mode of nutrition. With respect to reproduction, asexual reproduction occurs through fission in kingdom Monera, and in kingdom Protista there is fission as well as cyst formation. With respect to sexual reproduction, there is conjugation process and there is no involvement of any gametes in kingdom Monera. Whereas in kingdom Protista, there is the union of the gametes which we had seen, and also there is the conjugation process wherein exchange of genetic material takes place. So based on these differences, we come to know that kingdom Protista, the species must have evolved from kingdom Monera with certain modification in their cell structure, right? But when we speak about the major groups, it sometimes becomes difficult to remember all these names, right? So in such situation, we can create some terms so that we can easily remember all these major groups. For example, AEMA. A stands for Archaebacteria, E is Eubacteria, M is Mycoplasma, and A is Actinomycetes. So this way we can prepare a term or short form of the major groups, and then we can easily remember all the names. Okay. Another way where we can remember these major groups based on the sentence form. So here I have made the sentence: Christine and Dinah eat slim food product M. C. Spore. Indicates there are chrysophytes, dinoflagellates, euglenoids, slime molds and protozoans. And protozoans have again subgroups: amoeboid protozoans, flagellated protozoans, ciliated protozoans and sporozoans. So this way we can easily remember the major groups. It sounds funny, but it is one of the methods which we can use with respect to these particular chapter. Okay. So today we will discuss the third kingdom, that is kingdom Fungi, which is supposed to be evolved from kingdom Protista. So kingdom Fungi are mostly seen in moist and humid places. The study of kingdom Fungi is called as mycology. So it is a branch of biology which deals with the study of fungus. This kingdom is also called as multicellular decomposers. So up till now we were discussing about unicellular organism. So kingdom Fungi, all species are multicellular in nature. They are eukaryotic and they are decomposers. That means they follow heterotrophic mode of nutrition. that lives on the organic matter or dead organisms. If we see the bread which is left for few days in the presence of moisture, or we see the fruits and vegetables, so these are the molds, they are the fungus. Also we see the rotting of certain fruits and vegetables. This is also a fungus. This is the reason why we keep fruits and vegetables in the fridge, or the prepared food is either made hot or kept in the refrigerator, so that we can prevent any bacterial or fungal infection. Fungus also causes disease in plants as well as in animals. We see the patches on the leaves indicate that there is the fungal infection. But there are some fungus that are edible, such as mushrooms, and ornamental fungus called toadstool. Yeast, which is the unicellular organism, a fungus, also play important role in baking and to prepare the alcoholic beverages. And there are certain fungus which play important role in the preparation of antibiotics. One of the example is penicillin, that is prepared from Penicillium notatum. So we see that these fungus grow in warm and humid places. They usually grow on the land, in the soil, water, air, on the plant as well as on animals too. So the salient features are, all the fungal species are multicellular, they are filamentous except the unicellular organism yeast, and all are eukaryotic in nature, indicates that the nuclear membrane is present surrounding the genetic material, and also there are membrane bound organelles. The main body of the fungus is called as mycelium, and these long, slender, thread-like structures, filaments, are called as hyphae. So the network of these hyphae is called as mycelium. The hyphae can be either multicellular or cenocytic. Multicellular indicates that there are many cells that are present. So these hyphae are having these cross walls, okay? And each cell will have one nucleus in it, okay? So such hyphae, multicellular hyphae, is also called as septate hyphae. Since there are the presence of cross walls, whereas the hyphae which do not have any cross walls, the hyphae will be just tube-like structure with many nuclei. So these hyphae are multinucleated. So such hyphae without the cross walls is also called as aseptate hyphae. And cenocytic hyphae. Okay? So the fungal hyphae can be either with cross walls or without the cross walls. The cell wall is made up of chitin. We call it as fungal cellulose. Okay? Also it has non-cellulosic polysaccharides. The fungi is heterotrophic in nature, and that is the unique feature of this kingdom. So they can be either saprophytic or parasitic in nature. So the saprophytes will take the soluble organic matter from the dead organisms, and parasites are those which will live on the living host. Okay? But there are some species which has the association with either with the higher plant roots and also with the algae. So the fungus lichens. So they have symbiotic association with the other organism too. Reproduction here in fungus occur in three different modes: vegetative, asexual and sexual reproduction. Vegetative reproduction, it is a type of asexual reproduction wherein the main body of the fungus will give rise to the organism. Okay? So there are various means by which the fungal species undergo such reproduction. The common method is through fragmentation, wherein the hyphae will get divided into several fragments and each fragment will give rise to new organism here. Okay? In budding, the main organism will form a small bird-like structure and that bird will get detached from the parental cell and it will form a new organism. Okay? Fission, that is also a common method wherein the constriction will take place at the center and it will divide into two daughter cells, right? That we had also seen in the kingdom Protista as well as in kingdom Monera. Sclerotium, that is the compact mass or cushion-like structure, will have the mycelium inside it. Okay, so this is the resistant structure which can survive for many years. During the favorable conditions, the new mycelia will get formed from this sclerotium. Another one is rhizomorph, wherein the hyphae will get modified in such a way that it will take the structure like a rope. This is also meant for during the unfavorable condition for their survival. So these structures are also resistant. The next type of reproduction is asexual, and these reproduction occur through the formation of spores in various fungal species. The first one is Conidia. Conidia spores are non-motile and they are formed on the hyphae at the tip where the constriction of the hyphae will lead to the formation of these spores. Since these spores are present on the hyphae, therefore it is called as exogenous spores. Okay? And the main hyphae which give rise to these conidia is called as conidiophore. The second type is sporangiospores. These spores are also non-motile. They are developed inside the fruiting body called as sporangia. So inside the sporangia, many such spores will be formed. Since they are inside the fruiting body, these spores are called as endogenous spores. And the hyphae which has these fruiting bodies is called as sporangiophore. So you can see here we are using PHORE for the main hyphae which bears these spores. The next is zoospores, which are formed in zoosporangia. These spores are motile, having one or two flagella. These spores are released in the aquatic region. Aplanospores are the non-motile spores also produced okay, or zoosporangia. Next is Flamingos. These spores are again non-motile and they are very resistant since it has very thick covering. Okay, these spores can be either terminal, they will be developed, or they can be present in between the hyphae, also called as intercalary Flamingos. Okay, so the main hyphae is called as Flamingos. Okay, and the last one is Oidea, wherein the main hyphae, which is the multicellular hyphae, each cell will be detached from the parent and that cell will give rise to the organism. Okay, so that is about asexual mode of reproduction. The third type of reproduction is sexual reproduction, wherein there will be the formation of spores, and these spores are called as Neospores. Since these spores are formed from the meiotic division, that means there is the involvement of gametes fusion, and from that fusion the cell that is formed will undergo meiotic division to give these spores. Okay, the first type is oospores. There are two types of sex organ, antheridium and oogonium. Antheridium is male sex organ and oogonium is female sex organ. Here, both the sex organs are called as gametangia. So, the male gamete will be released from the antheridium into the oogonia, and there the syngamy or fertilization of male and female gamete will take place. Okay, so both these sex organs will come very close to each other during the fusion. The cell that is formed or the zygote that is formed after the fusion will undergo meiotic division to release oospores. Okay, so there will be many oospores that will be formed. Other type of spores are zygospores, wherein there will be fusion of antheridia and oogonia. Okay, previously we have seen that both antheridia and oogonia come close to each other and the male gamete will be released into the oogonia. But here there is a fusion between both gametangia. Okay, and after the fusion there will be the zygote that will be formed will give rise to zygospores. The third type of spores are seen in insect fungi. The main fruiting body is called as ascocarp, which will have many asci, those are the sac-shaped structures which will bear the spores called as ascospores. Since these spores are present inside the ascus, therefore the spores are endogenous. These spores are non-motile. Okay, so many ascus are called as asci, which are formed in the ascocarp. Okay, the last type is Basidiopspores that are developed in the fruiting body called as basidiocarp. Okay, the basidiocarp will form the club-shaped structures outside or on the gills. So here, this region, we will see such many basidia, okay, that are club-shaped, and each basidium will give rise to the spores called as basidiospores. Since these spores are formed on the basidia, therefore they are called as exogenous. These spores are involved in sexual cycle: plasmogamy, karyogamy and meiosis. Plasmogamy is the fusion of protoplasm between the two hyphae or gamete or gametangia. Okay? Karyogamy is the fusion of the nuclei which is present in this hyphae, gamete or gametangia. Meiosis is the process by which the zygote that will be formed after the fertilization, it will undergo meiotic division to release spores. And these spores are haploid in nature. Okay? So we should remember, first there will be the fusion of protoplasm, then fusion of nuclei, and then the cell that is formed will undergo meiotic division, okay, to release spores. This cell cycle can either occur in the gametes. So these gametes will be either male or female gamete. Okay? The fusion will take place in such a way that the protoplasm will fuse together to give one cell with two nuclei. Okay, so that is plasmogamy, and then both the nuclei will fuse together. It's called as karyogamy. Once the fusion has taken place, this cell that is called as zygote will undergo meiotic division to release the spores that are haploid. Okay, so the zygote here is diploid and the male and female gametes are haploid. Right? So the haploid gametes will undergo first plasmogamy, fusion of protoplasm, then they will undergo karyogamy to form a zygote. Union of both haploid gametes will give rise to diploid zygote, and this zygote will undergo meiotic division to release the spores that are haploid. We should remember any diploid cell, when it undergo meiotic division, will have half the number of chromosomes in the daughter cells, right? So that we have to keep in mind. So the sexual cycle can occur in the gamete, or it can also occur in the hyphae between the two different strains, or it can also occur in the gametangia, that is between the antheridia and oogonia. Okay? Here too in the hyphae we see when there are two different strains come closer to each other, there will be the first fusion of the protoplasm between the two cells of different hyphae will take place, and then the nuclei will fuse with each other called as karyogamy, and later on they will release the spores by undergoing meiotic division. So here we see there is a stage wherein there are two nuclei present in one cell. So such cell we call it as dikaryotic cell. Okay? So this is the cell. Soon after the plasmogamy, there will be two nuclei that will be seen in one cell. Such condition can live for many generations in the fungus such as Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes. Okay? So these many dikaryotic cells can be formed in the fungus. Such phase is called as dikaryotic phase. And the condition is Okay. So the cell is called as dikaryotic cell. The phase wherein the dikaryotic cell will have the nuclei, two nuclei from any generation is called as dikaryotic phase, and the condition is called as dikaryote. Okay. So there are several methods by which sexual reproduction occurs. One, that is through gametes. So these gametes can be either similar kinds or they can be of different kinds, or oogamy, wherein the egg will be larger in size compared to male gamete. Okay. It can also occur in between the two gametangia, wherein the antheridia and the oogonia will come closer to each other and male gamete will be released inside the oogonia. Okay, and there the fertilization will occur. Or there can be fusion between the two gametangia, right? And the fourth one is it can also occur in the hyphae of two different strains. So that was all about the salient features of kingdom fungi. In the next video, we will see